All right, and we're live. How is it going, Rebecca and Brian? How are we doing?
Doing awesome. How are you, Austin?
Doing good, doing good. Thank you so much for jumping on episode 11 of Real Estate Homies. I'm very, very excited to have you. One, you've been clients of Dippidi for, I feel like going on 2 years now. So we've been able to build up some good rapport. We've gotten some results. And so now we just built this great relationship with each other. I got to run into the office actually. I feel like it was a month and a half ago. And you weren't there, Rebecca. Brian was actually there. And
I was here. I was
I was
working.
I was busy out there, hustling.
yeah, exactly. Yeah, Brian says he's working, right? Exactly.
Right.
but
Right.
Story of
So
my
but
this
Rebecca's out
life.
there hustling.
him and Tyler walk in and they're like, "All right, let's go Texas to Brazil." I'm like, "It's 5:30 in the afternoon. I'm just getting out."
Yeah, no, it was awesome. But no, we were at a little Tom Ferry conference right down the road, and we're like, dude, there's their office right there. We got to walk in. So it was awesome to see you there, Brian. But no, I'm pumped to talk today because you guys have specialized in one real estate, right? And your story is really cool of how Bella Trae Realty started. And now you're exploring a new venture in short-term rentals, vacation rentals that I want to talk on today as well. And just kind of get your perspective on the real estate market as a whole, because everything's kind of getting, we already thought it was crazy and it's getting even crazier now. So I'm interested in seeing where your thoughts are at with it. But if you don't mind, I'm going to jump in by just asking you a little bit about the background of Bella Trae Realty and how you guys started the company, because I think it's pretty fascinating route that other people may even go through themselves.
Yeah, absolutely. So I've been licensed in real estate since 2007, 2008, which was a stellar time to get into real estate. But we survived and we made it through. I've always sold short-term rentals. Primarily, we're based in the ChampionsGate area, which is right in the heart of all those short-term rental Disney properties. We do residential too. Then just over 2 years ago, I decided it was time to branch out on my own, or together but separate from other companies, and we became an independent brokerage with Bella Trae Realty. It's a sort of a hybrid model in that we have a property management aspect for the residential management as well, which is a massive portfolio that we manage and care for, and a lot of our real estate turns within that. So we've had that just over 2 years now, I think it is, and we've
Feels like a
grown.
lifetime.
It's great
Yeah.
fun. We love it. We've grown. I think we have 14 agents now. We're still strong in the short-term rental market and residential market, primarily investors. But we definitely saw a avenue to explore in more specialized in the STR market. And that was when we decided we'd jump on this second company, which, is Brian's specialty for sure, bringing in the short-term rental background of managing it and being able to help people understand how to purchase short-term rentals, why, where, the process. It's not the same as residential. And I think that, that's an issue when you're working with agents, is if they don't have that short-term knowledge, they can inadvertently perhaps misguide you on it.
And that happens
Yeah,
a lot.
no,
Yeah.
that's what I was going to say. I imagine that can happen quite a bit, especially with like Airbnb and VRBO getting very, very popular, and people seeing a lot of results from it. There's probably more investors that are interested in like, okay, well, do I want to take the long-term route? Do I want to go the short-term route? What are things I should be looking for? And they may reach out to their typical real estate agent that they're working with, and they have zero specialization in it. So they don't really know, like, how do you project the numbers? How do you navigate the legalities? There's some markets that have like different regulations and different things that could prevent you or hinder your cash flow or things you could generate. So how do you navigate those waters in terms of educating the investor that's interested in a short-term rental?
Well, I think we're actually a very unique agency in that we can guide our investors to look at real estate from a long-term perspective and also do comparables for short-term. The way we really do it on the short-term rental side is we have a lot of access to data. So we use our revenue management teams. We look at, comps. So we'll take a unit, we'll take a look at how much the unit's worth, and then we'll say, okay, based on the home that you're looking for, here's the market data that we can acquire. And a lot of it has to do with how many units in this market are, for example, a 4-bedroom, 5-bedroom house. So what's your competition look like? and then take a look at the subdivision itself and say, well, in that particular subdivision, how many units exist? How much data do we have on the rentals, and how well are they performing? So how many nights are they booked? And then what does the nightly rate look like? And then we take all of that data, we wrap it up, we send it to the investor, and we say, okay, this is what the potential earnings of that unit looks like. And potentially this is what your ROI looks like. It's an interesting market right now, especially in the Orlando market, where international travel is just starting to come back. So if you looked at data like 2 years ago or 3 years ago, pre-COVID, it was very easy to do some predictions. We were full 85% of the time for the most part. Now it's our what we call our booking window has shifted a lot. So people used to book really far in advance. So you'd see bookings 12 to 18 months in advance. Now we're seeing most reservations happening within 30 days. So when people ask us for data, it's interesting. It's an exercise that we have to add a caveat to. This is what we think it can generate based on some previous market data, but it's shifting so much at the moment.
Yeah, everything is.
Sorry.
No, go right ahead, Rebecca. What were you saying?
Shift in who's buying as well. Like our investor for short-term rentals used to, I would say 75% plus would be foreign investors. It would be your Europeans, your Brits, your Brazilians. Chinese was huge. South Americans. We're still seeing a huge amount of South Americans. We're definitely not seeing the European market we used to see, but we're seeing a huge interest in Americans purchasing here from out of state. And that's definitely something we've seen change over the last, I would say 4 or 5 years, specifically even post-pandemic. If we're post, I'm not sure. But yeah, we're seeing a huge influx of like the West Coast, they're cashing out of their primary residence or, taking equity out of their primary and investing in a market that is still, although we've, I think our zip code has gone up 29% in the last year. We're still seeing that as a fairly reasonably priced home for a second home purchase with good returns. So we're seeing a lot of fellow American investors as well.
Yeah, and the type of buyer that's coming in is a much savvier buyer. I think previously what we've seen is people trying to understand what the market looks like. And because of technology, and it's a huge factor that we discuss all the time, because of technology, the type of investor that's buying now is much more aware. They're aware of the actual product, which was non-existent before. So vacation rentals, although it's one of the oldest type of lodging, that exists, people didn't understand it. They didn't have data insight into what could happen. Now everybody's pretty much used an Airbnb. They have an understanding of it. So they have the ability to log into like an Airbnb and say, okay, I know what this looks like. They have some interesting technology built into things like Airbnb where you can start to gather some information, but it's putting a lot of pressure on us on giving them better information, better numbers.
Yeah. Oh, for the investor themselves, because they could go on to like an AirDNA or something along the lines of that to go see the information. Which is, I think, compare it to Zillow. That's no different either, right? Like at the end of the day, people could go to Zillow to get the information about the home, but at the end of the day, the level of service, trust, expertise still lies in the hands of the agent itself. So I think that you're going to start seeing that as well, probably in the vacation rental market. Especially with things like Vacasa, right? Like, I don't even know if I said that right. Vacasa,
Yep.
something like that. Like they're very large. They would be the Zillow of short-term rentals, I would say. So, I mean, you're going to probably start seeing things like that where there's these market leaders in the industry as well. I'm curious, because you guys do work with a lot of investors, are a lot of them cash buyers, or with the interest rates going up, are you seeing some investors kind of get hesitant, or some buyers get hesitant because they're not buying it for like their own home that they're living in, or their homestead? They're actually just purchasing it and trying to carry a mortgage and float a mortgage and cash flow it. Are those type of investors backing out right now?
No, we're really not seeing any dip in demand due to the increase in interest rates. A lot of the investors are, when you're in the second home level or investment home, your rates are already higher anyway. You're not getting, the primary resident rate. So they're used to having to pay the higher interest rates. And, a true investor will just pay that down quicker, or they're putting higher amounts down to buy their points down, whatever it might be. We are seeing cash buyers, but honestly, with the rates still although higher, still low in the big scheme of things. They're still leaning towards financing if they can get the offer accepted with finance, simply because it's, they're getting a bigger return by having their money in the bank still than borrowing someone else's money to grow their portfolio. We are seeing a huge amount of people using that cashing out, though, to, for those down payments of their primary residences, or refinancing other properties they own in the second home market for that chunk down to buy the next property, which is a big pattern we see here.
Yep, I agree. So is the big thing that's driving people, especially in your market, is it Disney? Like, how much weight does Disney carry? I know Champions Gate, like me personally, I'm a big golfer and I love Champions Gate area for all the golf courses, like Reunion's right there.
Mm-hmm.
I like that area, but I know Disney's right there. And so is that like a huge driving factor?
I
And how
think
much
Disney,
weight does Disney carry?
yeah, I mean, that was really interesting during the pandemic, to be honest, because, Disney closed, like stopped functioning. And we saw very little effect on the rental market. And I'm sure Brian can speak more to that. But yeah, I mean, Disney is definitely a pull, but and we're thankful it's on our, on our doorstep for that reason. But there is so much more to Central Florida than just Disney alone, not to take away from it. We have the other theme parks, Universal, the water parks, we have the golf, we have the climate, that's huge. When those people in the winter want to escape those harsh snow and ice storms, come to Florida and have 70-degree weather in the winter and a pool in your backyard. Disney's just one of the factors, I would say.
And I think one of the big factors during COVID was that the state stayed open, right? We were one of the very few states that really shut down. I mean, we shut down for maybe 3 or 4 months, tried to understand what was happening, but for the most part, we ended up opening up. We have good weather. So people, even though they were isolated, understood that they could still use a pool. They had a backyard that they could use, barbecue, all of that kind of stuff. So there was a massive attraction, not just to invest as a second home for travelers, but also the influx of people that were coming in to live here. They were experiencing it as a traveler, as a vacationer, and then all of a sudden said, well, why the heck are we stuck in an apartment for $1 million in New York City when we can own a massive, beautiful house here in Florida for the same price? Disney is a big factor here, but we've also got big industries. I mean, we're a big conference location. We're also huge into sports. A lot of professional sports come here and train here.
Yes.
I mean, Claremont's just about to build $1 billion facility for professional trainers.
I think there's isn't there like a big ESPN kind of thing here in Orlando? Is it ESPN? They have a huge branch in Orlando, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. So we have the
I think so.
spring training of baseball has always been in the area for various teams, but we're definitely seeing more of a smaller training scale as well. That we see a huge amount of triathletes coming here throughout the winter up in the Claremont area, like Brian said, who want the Airbnbs in this area because they can cycle all day long. The weather's predictable in the winter. We don't have the rainstorms. It's it's just good. We're seeing a huge amount of cycling, running, triathlete type training, cheer squads. I mean, the Omni Hotel, which is literally on our back doorstep. We've got a national cheer thing going on this weekend, a national lacrosse school thing, and I think a soccer one. So just
massive
space for that kind of stuff, which is, and the climate.
Yeah, we have tons of stuff, festivals, concerts. We attract all of it. So it's becoming one of those hubs. And in addition to that, we're becoming one of the tech hubs as well. So for example, Disney's moving their entire corporate office here to the Orlando area. They're going to the other side. But from a technology perspective, we're becoming one of those areas where it's less expensive. Well, it used to be less expensive to live. It still is, but it's attracting really good talent. So people want to be here.
Yeah, no, I see it all the way through. I mean, I live in just like 45 minutes to an hour away from you guys in Lakeland, and Lakeland is exploding. Like it's booming with a lot of people coming in. We have Amazon that has a massive deal with our airport. Literally every single day, I'm actually shocked I don't see it right now at my window. Like Amazon is flying massive airplanes, bringing in products in and out. So it's just crazy to see how much is booming in Central Florida as a whole. And it's really interesting to see where it's going to head.
It's funny because a couple of years ago you would have said Tampa and Orlando, they're so far apart, there's nothing in between us. And now you go down, our interstate, and it's basically it's all linked. There isn't a piece of land that you can see that doesn't have a house connecting Lakeland or even Tampa to the Orlando market.
Yeah.
I think it'll continue to progress as we start to see things like the train stations, the trains get implemented. So some of that stuff is going to help us a lot too.
Yeah, like my aunt, she takes the train. She lives in Winter Park, so it's over near your area. She takes the train to Lakeland every time she comes here. She's getting older and she don't want to sit in I-4 traffic, which I don't blame her at all. But yeah, she'll just take it right over, and I'm like, this is crazy. She's taking the train to Lakeland, and it's actually cheaper, I think, than driving her car with the toll roads, the gas, and everything like that. It makes me think like, man, I wish they would have put that bullet train in that, like back in the day. I think people were voting. That was on like the ballot to put a bullet train from Tampa to Orlando. And I'm like, can only imagine what it would be like right now if we could get over to you guys in like 15 minutes. Like I don't even.
Still talk of that. I think that the main goal, and it's still, you know, a long way out, I think, but in the linking Orlando and Miami, I think is the aim with a high speed train.
Oh, wow. So it'd go all the way from Orlando down to Miami. That would be incredible.
That is being done by Richard Branson.
Yeah, I heard that Virgin were involved in it. It's still a lot to be figured out, I believe. I don't think it's approved, but there's definitely talk of it, which is pretty exciting. Because in the UK, run all the trains, so.
Yeah, these guys are crazy. Richard Branson, Elon Musk buying Twitter, like literally bought Twitter. Yeah, what's your thoughts on that?
It's going to change things for sure. I don't know. You can't predict Elon Musk. I think he's got a mind of his own.
I think the worst thing you can do is try and guess what he's going to do.
Exactly.
Yeah, exactly.
But
no, I just watched that. Exactly. I just watched that documentary, Return to Space. I don't know if you've seen it on Netflix, but it's incredible. Like he literally, I didn't know everything that SpaceX has really done, but he's like able to make a rocket that goes up and it comes back down and lands, and it's just insane. But it makes me actually, we'll take this shift to social marketing, right? Or social media marketing. So what are you guys doing when it comes to the short-term side of things and how you're able to market that? Like, I know you're building something, Brian, and I'm interested in like picking your brain on that. How does this all tie in? Because I know you're building like a platform, and I kind of want you to talk through that with me so I can have a better understanding of it.
Right. So we decided to go back into the short-term rental business, partially because of the services that were being provided by the local market, with a hyper focus on guest experience, implementing things like technology, different types of technology, and then content built into the house. Each house basically has a story. We treat it like individual hotels, not just an Airbnb. So with that being said, one of the big exercises that we have is starting to implement things like storytelling. And storytelling now comes through social media and communications. So building out a strategy that involves email communications, text messaging, and then the follow through with social media, asking guests to be able to share their experiences or their stories at the homes, and then also asking the homeowners to actually produce the same kind of content and continue to produce that kind of stuff throughout the year, because it's consistent, it's constant. We always have different things happening. One of the things that's very difficult to do in the short-term rental space is keep up with all of that information. The houses change, the seasons change. So what we're trying to figure out is, how do you storytell over seasons, over periods of time, and stay relevant? And that for us is really the big challenge with the homes. So part of it is we have to have homeowners that are willing to give us information that we ask for, be patient with us to help us build out the platform that we're looking to build out. And then the same thing on the back end is looking for the technology and partners that can help us achieve that. And, we've reached out to Dippidi to see if you guys can help us do some of the social stuff. But it comes through blogs. It comes through working with different partners like Disney, Universal. It also, some of the counties have the business bureaus here. So we work with some of those guys to start putting together some of the content that we need to produce.
So what is this going to look like? Like, what would this experience be? Who would be the customer here for this?
The end result is the guest. So your Airbnb or your VRBO traveler. So there's a thought process, which is It's very difficult to compete against Airbnb and VRBO. They have the biggest market share, and my idea is not to compete against them, but to work with them. We receive the guest, we want them to have a really good experience, and through that experience, we want them to become return guests. So that becomes the exercise for every property manager. The way that works is that you get them to book directly. And although it's expensive to book through Airbnb, which we treat as a marketing channel, the success comes when that guest has such a great experience that they come to you. Now your margins go up because they're coming directly to you to book the house. And that's really what we're looking to do. Attract a guest, get them into the house, retarget them, and get them to book again. We've only been open since May last year. We've had a few guests already return. I've actually got one guest that's returned 3 times.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. But it takes a lot of work, a lot of attention to detail, a lot of training with our staff. And it's interesting. It's a lot of fun.
Yeah, no, it takes time to build something, right? So it's really cool where you're heading with it. I think it's going to be extremely valuable.
Yeah.
So what's the current landscape for Bella Trae Realty right now? What's on the agenda to try to do the goals? Like, where are you guys trying to head right now?
Well, we're trying to hit at least 250 transactions this year is our goal. We want to make sure that we serve that many people and get them the dream that they're wanting, which is primarily an investment property of some sort. Not that we don't service residential, that's not our specialty, but we certainly can. And by doing that, we want to then be able to pass them off to Olivo Homes or another reputable company that we work alongside to be able to maximize their return on their investment. Basically, we don't want to just say, hey, we've sold you the home. Thanks so much. Thanks for the commission check. We're out. When that's not our mission or our values, we want to be able to see it through. We want you to be able to come back to us because you're so happy with what you've purchased. You want to buy another one, a second, a third, a fourth, whatever it might be. I mean, we have some people who are up to probably 15 plus properties now. So to be able to, reservice that and make it a profitable venture and an enjoyable venture for them, as hassle-free as possible, as stress-free as possible. That's our mission, really, is what we want to bring, and obviously bring the agents along for the ride and grow them as people as well.
I think that's the key, right? Is making your customers repeat customers, happy customers. Mm-hmm. So if we have an ecosystem that works all together, then that customer is going to be a forever customer for us.
I love that. No, and I think it's cool because you guys, what percentage of your client base are investors? Is it quite a bit?
75 plus, I would say.
Oh yeah. See, so that's great in your model that you're able to attract investors in various ways that you do. You have so many services that you can help them with, right? You can help them sell their home, buy a home. You can help them manage a long-term rental. You can help them manage a short-term rental. And you have all that knowledge all under one roof. I mean, it's pretty incredible to be able to have that.
Them, like, if they need to pivot their portfolio a little bit as well, that happened a lot during the pandemic where, I always say short-term rental versus long-term rental is risk. Your long-term rental is, and I think I messaged you about this on your Facebook post, long-term rental is definitely less risk. It's like stocks and shares kind of thing. How risk averse are you? Your long term is a fixed income per month. You don't have variables like you do in the short term world. Providing everything goes to plan. Obviously, you've got a 12-month lease. You're going to get X amount each month. Yes, you may have maintenance, etc. You don't have varying utilities because they're the tenant's expenses. Where short term is probably more profitable, but it's more risk. You've got to be able to book it. You don't know how much the AC bill is going to come in at each month. You don't know if the pool is going to need this, that, etc. So more, but I think overall, if you're able to do that risk, you've got the short term, which would be more profitable. Long term is more steady. And so during the pandemic, we were able to pivot some of the short term rental properties that needed the income more to a long term lease. We put a 12-month in. We kept them probably breaking even, maybe making a profit. So we have that ability to flip-flop the homes as well if necessary.
Yeah, that's what's super cool because you can almost, depending on your client, who your client is, you eventually know their risk, how their risk management may be and how risk averse they are. So you can know like, hey, I know they really do want to do short term, but because of the pandemic, you were able to shift it to where it's like, hey, we can stay afloat, we're profitable or little cash flow. And then now you know that things are starting to ramp back up. You could go back to that client and let them know, hey, we're here again. How do how you feeling? Right. And kind of shift it back over. That's
Yeah.
really cool to be that verse.
Yeah. And we're seeing people locking properties in now for short term in the future. So they're buying a home now, but they don't want to put the money into it because of the prices escalating so quickly. So they're buying it now, locking it in. They don't want to put the money into furnishing it ready for a short-term rental. So they're saying, hey, let's put a long-term renter in for 12 months. They'll bring their own furniture. We'll do the theming, etc., in 12 months time down the road, but let's get some income for this first 12 months. So we're seeing that as well, where they're, buying now in order to lock the price in, but aren't ready for the short-term jump yet.
Yeah, that makes total sense too. Do you guys do the staging as well? Like, or do you have a vendor that in place for staging?
For the short-term rentals?
Yeah.
Yeah, we do staging as well.
Look at that. You're rocking it.
Well, it
It's
depends, okay, because there's some stuff that we can do. We outsource some of the stuff because some of it's fairly complicated, needs very skilled people, but we do most of the staging in-house.
Yeah, that's a tough part, because a lot of people don't understand what you said in the beginning, like trying to come up with a theme of some sort, and not just make it like cookie cutter. Because I think in the event, every market is sick. Sick. I'm going to lose in the word cyclical. So they're gonna have a time where the Airbnb and short-term rentals may not be the wave, right? Like it might be hot right now, but there could be a point where it's not, and not people aren't as traveling as much or traveling to a specific location as much. And when that event happens, like you're gonna need to be prepared for it. So a lot of times, I think those like kind of cookie cutter ones that are themed are going to be the ones that go away, and people aren't going to book as much. And the ones that are themed, have good social proof, have good ratings, like those are going to be the ones that people stay going to and keeps you stronger when the market does have a downturn. So what are your thoughts on the overall market right now? I think that's one of my favorite questions to just kind of hear people's mindsets on. I know nobody's Nostradamus, nobody can predict things, but what are your thoughts on the overall health of the market, where it's at based off of what you're seeing day to day?
I think Florida is, and always has been, a bit of an anomaly. Central Florida, anyway. I do see nationally, I think we'll see a slight leveling. I don't want to eat my words in a few months' time. I don't see any massive downturn. But for Florida, I see still an upward trajectory. We have so many people moving here. It's become such a populous state. I am interested on how it will pan out in a couple of years' time. If the whole work from home thing goes away and people do insist on them going back to the office, will there be an exodus as well? Who knows? But I do think a lot of companies have realized that people can be just as productive, if not even more productive, and have more satisfied employees by having them work from home. So maybe that won't happen. But overall, I don't see Central Florida as a unique area downturn anytime soon. Thankfully, we still have the demand. We're still multiple offer situations. We're still, massively over asking price on some properties. Definitely competitive market, that's for sure. And just the infrastructure that's being put in place, and the different types of people we're now attracting, rather than 10 years ago when it was just your Disney families on vacation. That's not the Central Florida market anymore. That's just one tranche of it, really.
Yeah, everything is changing.
She just said.
Yeah, she kind of crushed that. I feel you on the like scared to eat your words, because we just don't know where we're heading or what we're going into. But I agree. I think I feel the same way. I think Florida's a market that is just gonna, right now it's sizzling. So I think I can agree with that. Where the market may see some tapering in other markets, but Florida's so hot right now.
I think people feel safe here. I think that's one of the things that people come down here. They feel good. They know that they can have a good lifestyle with their families. And so we're going to, as long as people keep wanting to move here, we're in a really safe place.
No, I couldn't agree more. So I got to thank you for jumping on. It's been fun. I hope that we could do this again. Maybe you guys can be my first repeat guests to come on. I haven't had that yet. So maybe right here down the road, you guys can jump back on. We can jam out a little bit more. But I want to thank you so much for the time today, and just for everything. You know, you guys have been great clients. You've become friends. I'm looking forward to coming out there and having another lunch or another dinner with you guys very soon. So thank you so much for everything.
You're welcome anytime.
Awesome. Well, good to see you, and we'll talk soon.
Thank you. Take care.